Hello and welcome to this week's Money 2020 Hindsight. I'm Nick Holland, Global Head of Research with Money 2020, and we're going to cover the least you know in fintech today. We're going to talk about Zip coming undone, Visa's tokens, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, and of course the money shot. But as ever, over to Mickey for the number of the day. So what's that?
Hey Nick, so today my number of the day is $772 million.
All right. So
So
I know what's
pretty
coming,
big.
but tell me what it's about.
So that is the yearly losses for Zip, the Australian BNPL player, and it announced its financial results. And for the year that ended in June 30th, it announced that it lost $772 million or 1.1 billion Australian dollars.
Yeah.
No surprise, really. We've seen this story play out for the last several months now. Uh, all of the big BNPL players, they grew hugely over the pandemic to some degree, and some might say a bit of hubris. We saw a lot of them, go on a big spending
Yeah.
spree, acquiring a lot of players as if, the market was just never ending, as it were.
Right. It's
But
Yeah, it's a shocker. I mean, again, no one's particularly surprised by this, but I think, again, we've seen the chickens come home to roost a little bit with like Klarna's big valuation reset, obviously. Affirms in the news as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is I guess the thing that's really important to notice is that Zip isn't just kind of one player that's struggling out of in a very robust market. A firm, which is another of the biggest BNPL players, publicly traded, missed its revenue expectations, losses continue to grow, and like at every point when you look at these financials, it's very concerning. So the cost of constant customer acquisition is increasing, the debts are increasing as well. The defaults, sorry, the bad loans are increasing, and the problem is, for a long time, I think people were cognizant of this because interest rates, we've seen this increasing,
Yeah.
inflation coming, cost of crisis, living coming. But as recently as the end of May, a firm CEO said, we have no worries about the economy, these macroeconomic concerns don't worry us at all, essentially.
Hmm.
And yesterday, when they missed their results, they said, oh, macroeconomic factors are weighing. So,
Yeah. I mean, they clearly made hay while the sun was shining during the pandemic, and everyone's on the sort of spending frenzies and obviously you can break it into four payments. Why wouldn't you? But yeah, definitely, it's I think the honeymoon's over. Anyway, let's
for
move
sure.
on. Let's talk about Visa. This is an interesting bit of news, I think, as well, based on the conversation we've been having the last couple of weeks about obviously the death of cards, or certainly the removal of the plastic component of cards from the card networks. So Visa has issued its four billionth network token for e-commerce payments, surpassing the number of physical cards it has in circulation worldwide. So VTS, the Visa Token Service, replaces 16-digit account numbers with a digital token. Only the payment giants can unlock. I think this is interesting in a lot of ways, Mick. I mean, because it's like, as you say, I mean, this kind of came out of sort of security and the need to protect card data in transit, and there's a sort of shift to tokenization. But it's really catching on in a big way, and certainly it had a massive dent on fraud. Its tokens apparently have led to a 28% reduction in fraud rates and a 3% increase in approval rates. So it's very powerful for e-commerce. But again, this the 16-digit pan on your cards is clearly in the minority at this point. And I think ultimately the use of plastic cards and its attributes will be on the way off to Shady Pines retirement home. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think, there are a couple of things that I thought were really interesting too. I think obviously the fact that this number is, equal to the kind of cards in circulation just highlights just the growth of, e-commerce and just online transactions. But I think also there is a really interesting thing here about, sometimes within this fintech space, there is quite a lot of hubris from the young and upcoming players.
Yeah,
And, what it does show is Visa is still such a huge company, and they are innovating because they are actually introducing new features that, are improving experiences, reducing fraud in a big way. And it just shows you their pool, so it's a big lesson. Don't count the incumbents out.
Yeah, I mean they're still, I mean, obviously huge companies, and they are the backbone to the economy in a lot of ways. So yeah, fascinating stuff. All right, let's move on to the last story in the news segment today. Let's talk about Marcus by Goldman Sachs. So I mean, certainly it's been, it's funny. I mean, this was such a darling of the fintech industry when it came out, and it just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to really, it's failure to launch, I guess, Micky. So tell me a bit more about this piece of news.
Yeah, so absolutely, as you said, failure to launch. Marcus is such an interesting venture because when it first launched back in 2018, 17 time, there was so much fanfare around it, and they it looked like they had some really great strategies, right? They focused on delivering high interest rates and a low interest economy at that time, which meant they collected huge amounts of consumer deposits. They were also very strategic. They acquired really good fintech players like Clarity Money to enable them to roll out their services quickly. But since then, things have not gone that well, and their losses, would you believe it, since they started, Marcus, are now over $4 billion.
I know that is crazy, and now they're pushing the launch date to 2023. So I mean, it's
So yeah, so now, and as you said, failure to launch, they're pushing their checking account, or in the UK, what we call their current account, until next year, kind of further denting the kind of progress of this. And what is also really interesting is even their acquisitions recently have not really been that strategic. So they acquired Green Sky, which is essentially a
that's
BNPL
right.
player. But
But
they
just in
acquired,
time for BNPL, as we've seen, to sort of be going
and
off the boil in a big
they
way.
acquired it last year for 2.2 billion at the height of the kind of market, and now I guess they'll
Whoops.
be lucky to get the point back in it, is what I would say.
But it's like a $4 billion cash burn is scary. I mean, that's not something that they would lose down the back of a couch, right? It's proper money. Anyway, let's close out the news segments for the day, and let's move on to the money shot. Pew pew. Today we have Alma Solera, who is head of communities with Money 2020. All right, so this segment of the Money 2020 Hindsight, we're going to devote to chatting with Alma Solera, who is Money 2020's global head of communities. Alma, hello, how are you doing?
Hi, Nick. Hi, Micky. How are you?
We are good. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, Alma, I wanted to pick your brains a little bit about your role and certainly some of the initiatives that Money 2020 is doing around obviously developing community and inclusivity in fintech. So, Alma, first of all, I mean, maybe just talk a little bit about your day job. What is it you do for Money 2020?
Great. So thank you so much for giving the opportunity to provide a bit of what I do and the impact that I'm trying to create here at Money 2020. So as Global Head of Communities, my main responsibility is basically act as a champion for the interests of all the communities that attend Money 2020. And that I can talk to you more in detail, but that applies to startups, to any fintech communities that they attend the show, and they would like to receive different ideas, activities, interactions, everything.
All right.
That's my main role.
So, which is quite a lot, actually. I mean, again, I think you're underselling it. You do an incredible job of, again, developing these communities for underrepresented groups in fintech. So let's talk first of all about Rise Up. So when did that start? What do you do? What's it about?
Okay, so Rise Up is an initiative that was founded by our president, Tracy Davis, and started in 2018. It's part of an umbrella initiative that we call Do Better Together initiative. This is something that it was created for the main purpose of giving back to communities. As a matter of fact, 99%, I wouldn't say 100% because, it's never perfect, but I would say almost 100% of women have attended a Rise Up program. They said it was life-changing. And that's something that drives me. And in terms of Rise Up is a phenomenal gathering of women, amazing women who apply from all over the world. We receive hundreds of applications and we only select the 30 best ones, those 30, they get allocated to some mentors, and they receive mentorship, guidance, anything they would like to accomplish within their career. And also at a personal level, we help them to give them some guidance and basically mentorship to make sure that once you're happy within yourself, then you will be able to perform your job better.
And as I say, it's been very successful in terms of the ladies who come through the system and in terms of their own career progression, right?
Exactly. It's something that it gets me seriously every morning when I wake up. Is like I'm like, okay, who am I going to change life today? It's something that it's super powerful. It's something that I cannot explain. But when I attended the first Rise Up, I mean, everybody was super, not only in a positive mood, but just wanted to learn, eager to learn and embrace change.
Yeah.
Alma, sorry to interrupt you, Nick.
Yeah, Micky, go on, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask, because, you know, of course, one of the things that we're really seeing at the moment within the industry is there is an issue with inclusivity, right? We saw the Adam Newman story. So just from your experience of talking to this cohort, right, what are the kind of specific challenges that they tell you that are really, you know, getting in the way of them really trying to thrive and you know, bring about innovative stuff that can be super transformative?
Amazing question, Micky, and thank you so much for that. So in terms of one of the most important themes that, and I wouldn't say is a theme, it's just reality, is basically just having the ability to show vulnerability in front of others. That is something that it is not that common. Or having the basically the ability to share that, hey, I'm burnt out and I would like to change. How can you help me out? That is something that it takes a lot of balls. Some of the words in Spanish, I don't want to say my words here, but you get my point in terms of having the courage to be open and be transparent in front of others. That is something that we really want to make sure that it gets spoken at Rise Up. And one of the things is that we really, really want to build on is help them to build more confidence, more trust in themselves. So this is not only about career focus, but also about personal development.
That's interesting. One of I spoke with Tracy the other week about this, but she said that, I mean, one of the sessions that was best received in Amsterdam this year was on imposter syndrome, which I thought was fascinating. So you want to chat about that a little bit?
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, Nick. In terms of that topic, so we decided to elaborate it as a panel, and you know, panel's duration is like 20-25 minutes, no more, or 30 as max. And people were so into it. They wanted to know more about it, that as a result, we're elaborating a workshop, a much stronger case and a much longer session in the US as a result because of that. In terms of the imposter, is not only in women, it's also in you guys. Let's be honest about that. And we've been educated.
I have it so badly all the time.
Exactly. And so I would invite anybody who would like to learn about the imposter syndrome and how to tackle it. It is something really, really interesting. And I could invite anybody who attends Money 2020 to speak with our speakers about that after the Rise Up session.
So let's talk also about Amplify, which is another part of Do Better Together, right? Exactly.
And that's as I'm going to use the umbrella again, because I love that concept and the umbrella initiative. So first sub-initiative is Rise Up, women empowerment, collaboration, guidance, mentorship. Amplify, it's super important as well. It's focused on giving voice, amplifying voices to the underrepresented groups. And that doesn't only mean different skin colors, different accents like myself, or different ethnicities or cultures. That also is somebody who is lacking a hand, somebody who's in a wheelchair, somebody who's got some disabilities. Those people are also, I want them to be represented in the Amplify group.
I think that's, you know, the thing that's so great about that too is a lot of the times, you know, we talk about inclusion from just, you know, the kind of moral side of it. But I think one thing that people often ignore is inclusion is great for innovation, right? Thinking about ideas. someone who has experienced life in a specific way will have a completely different way of thinking about a problem and how to solve that.
Right.
And I think there's the crux of like why I think we really ought to push for more diversity, and why things like Amplify are so valuable and important, because those experiences can give us a new way of looking at problems.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, a lot of the fintech industry looks like me, and that's kind of unfortunate for a lot of reasons. Face made for radio, but it's also, I mean, it's again, clearly, if you have this echo chamber of the same sort of thinking, then nothing really progresses. So I think, I mean, it's tragic how little money goes into the investment of startups for minorities and women and so on. But that's really where I think the real creativity comes from. And if we neglect the entire stratas of the population, then we're just going to end up with the same very vanilla types of solutions.
Yes, and just to add to that, to your points, which are great, both, by the way, I love, just to add a small detail, is that let's not forget, we need to be in this together. We cannot be one corporate, one company doing separated. There must be a union. And that's part of the next question, Nick, that, in terms of the foreseen, I would love to.
Where are we taking this? I mean, again, we're on, we're in single digits in terms of weeks leading up to the Las Vegas show. We're already planning for Amsterdam for next year. So what's in the pipeline?
We are taking it to a very exciting times. I got to say that in terms of the, regardless of what's going on in the world, we need to keep looking forward and moving forward, and keep watching the scene. Obviously being aware of what we've got, but also creating and being creative about what we create in terms of making more joint efforts. And what I said, it's really important when it comes to, it's not only about Amplify or Rise Up, it's about absolutely everyone, then to all the communities, engaging with others and helping each other about what challenges they've got within the industry. This is I remember in one of my previous employers, we organized a CIO's breakfast, and all of the big names for banks were there. They took their hats of the brands out, and they were just CIOs who had the exact same challenges. This is what I would love to see and not only, as I said, Rise Up or Amplify, but in general within the fintech industry, talking about challenges and how we can help each other. How can we push shoulder to shoulder and basically help everyone to accomplish whatever goal, whatever objective they've got, hand them the right tools, and basically work with them if they need to.
Brilliant. All right, well, Alma, let's close it out there. I'm so psyched to be working with you on some of these things in like Las Vegas and Amsterdam and just throughout the year. So I mean, again, it's a very noble cause, but it's also a lot of fun as well. So Alma Solera, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alma.
All right, well, that's it for this week's Hindsight. So thank you so much to Alma Solera for joining us today. Thanks as ever to Micky for being my Hindsight insight provider. I'm Nick Holland with Money20, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
All right.